Well, welcome back to the shop, everyone. I am Bobby Sharp, and this is what I call the Made by Hand shop. If you saw the dust collection videos, I talked about building a taller bucket for the dust collector where the cyclone would fit on top of it and all the dust would fall into that bucket. And on today's video, we're going to assemble the bucket. And I started out by cutting 26 slats. And I believe this angle is 7.5 degrees or thereabouts. And I've made a small little jig that I'm going to use when I glue these slats together, and just use some blue tape and some Titebond to glue. And so let's jump right into it. All right, so I mentioned there about a jig, and this is the jig. This is a 16-inch diameter. Which is what the circumference or the diameter of the bucket will be. It'll be a 16-inch bucket. And what we're going to do first is we're going to take all of our slats. We're going to lay these out. And I'm going to apply blue tape to this to hold them together. And then we'll flip it over and I'll put glue on all the surfaces. Then we'll lay it on the jig to help form it, and we'll see how that goes. All I'm doing here is lining up the edges, the ends and the edges nice and uniform. Doesn't have to be really tight. You just want those butted up against each other. All right. Just to prove how strong the blue tape is, we can hold it up like that. So the jig comes into play at this point. And that is all I'm going to do is drape this over this like this. And I'll set this off to the side and let it dry. All the ends here are closed up. The angles are closed up. And it's really cool how this works. The two ends are in parallel with one another, and you can't get this thing cockeyed left and right. It wants to lay parallel with the loops. So that's pretty cool. Okay, I've got a couple of these sections glued together, and I went ahead and cut the bottom out. And that's helped kind of shape this a little bit. This is a 16-inch circle. It's really hard to hold this and keep it kind of in the right shape. So I have clamped it to the table, to the workbench, and it's up against my shelf here. And I'm going to glue on another section, and the circle's going to help keep it in shape, I guess you would call it. Just going to put the glue on this edge here. I'm not spreading this out. I'm just putting quite a bit on there. And then we'll let that... Got the clamp here just to keep this from falling over, but we'll let this sit for a little while, and my other section here is gluing up or drying, and as soon as this dries we can put the last piece on. All right, so I'm back. This is still drying, But I'm going to go ahead and put this other piece on there so these two can dry at the same time, just to save me some time. So I'm going to put another generous layer of glue on here. The jig that I made that actually holds the pieces with the tape on them and kind of forms it to the 16-inch shape, man, that worked out great. So if you're going to do something like this, that's probably a good idea, is to use some sort of form like that so you can set it off, let it dry, and then come back when it's ready. Tell you what, I'll just do that like that. I don't want this to move, that's why I'm putting the tape on. These boards aren't the straightest either. They're some of them have a little bit of a bow to them. It's not going to be the prettiest segmented barrel around, but it will function perfectly for what I want to use it for. All right, so now I'm going to let this dry for a good while, and then I'll have to do this last seam right here. I don't think I can get that glued up. You know what? Maybe I can. I don't know if I should take the form out or not. Nope, looks like that's going to fall in. All right, so I'm gonna see if I can't get some glue on that and tape this together. Maybe we can do this all at one shot. Get that on there before my glue runs off. Now let's put some big pieces of tape on here to pull it together and line it up. All right, well, I'm happy with that. I'm very happy with that. All right, so my bottom is about right here. I'm stuck in the middle to kind of help form this shape here and hold it all together and keep it from falling apart. So we will let this dry now, since it's one big piece, and then I'll come back once this is pretty safe to move around and handle a little bit. All right, this is dried a little bit, and I'm going to go ahead and proceed. So I've got the bottom located where I can cut off the excess side if I have to, and I'm going to go around and make sure that it is plumb with the sides. Just using a square along with a scrap piece of wood, and just checking this as I go. That looks really good there. So now I'm just going to shoot some brads in here and see if we can't kind of speed up this process, you know. And then I took the cyclone off and kind of adjusted this so it would fit inside on the other end. Just like that. Then I made 3 pieces here that will fit inside, and those will get nailed in just like the bottom, and that will give us a lip for the top to sit on, just like that. And this will be this end is pretty much round. I'll just make sure it's, I mean, not round, but it's pretty much flush all the way around, except this one is a little bit longer. So I might have to trim this off a little bit. I can do that with my handsaw. So the next step would be to get these positioned and get these installed. I might nail these from the inside since they'll flex a little bit, because I think this thing is a little bit egg-shaped. You can roll it around and this won't fit, but it fits really nice where it is right there. So there we go. A little bit of friction there. So I'll get this one lined up like I did the bottom, mark this, and then I can double this up and shoot some nails and install the lip part. So I've made a mark, and that's the outside, and these pieces are the same thickness. And what I'm going to do is shoot it from the inside. Really need to do is line up the ends of these. Thing's kind of heavy. So there is the bucket. And then that will sit on top. Of course, I need to put some foam in here, run some silicone to seal this up. There's probably going to be some cracks, some air seepage on these joints. Trim the top off so it's nice and flush. I really like that. I think that'll work perfect. So now I've got to redo some piping because this is a lot taller. Need to extend both of these up, and so I'll do that next. All right, guys, it's been a few days. Everything has dried. I had to wait on this 4-inch hose, and I'll show you a tip on using these with fittings, the regular drain PVC pipe fittings, and how you can incorporate the pipe and the hose together. But I have the container or bucket, if you will, finished. So let's reassemble this. I wanted the flexible hoses so that I could do this right here. When I empty the bucket, I could take it off the unit, and it's flexible in case there's any vibrations and things like that. And that just goes on there. And then I'll put the 90 on back here. All right, so I purchased a 10-foot long 4-inch flexible tube from Amazon, and I'll put a link in the description on the exact one that I bought. This was one of the cheapest price-wise versions I have seen of this. And so how do we incorporate this flexible hose into our pipe fittings? Well, it just so happens that the outside dimension of this hose is the inside dimension of a coupling or a fitting that has a coupling made onto it. Now, this is the end of the drain pipe that has a formed coupling on it. I didn't have a 4-inch coupling. I had this offcut, so why not use it, right? Of course, the fittings already have a coupling on here to where they will fit over the pipe itself. So we're going to use that to our advantage. Now, this is really simple. All we're going to do is stuff this 4-inch hose into the coupling. So you'll have to reach in and pull it in, but it will slide rather snugly into the coupling. Now I've pulled that in probably about 2 inches or so. That should be well and good there. Now, if you're worried about this pulling out, I'm telling you, I'm pulling pretty hard and that's in there. That's not going to come out. I mean, you can see I've stretched this. So that fits perfectly in there. The other side, now you can just take and push this together and push it in. The problem with that is all of this is now shoved up in there, and this is going to be a lot shorter. But what you can do is you can work some of these little links out, if you will. Kind of hold it so you don't pull it all the way out, but you start over if you pull it too far out. Now, if you're worried about this pulling out, and again, that's up in there pretty good. So if you're worried about this pulling out, all you really need to do is drill a hole, a small hole, and put a self tapping screw or a metal screw, something that has a point on it, and it just needs to grab one of these metal rings. That's all you need. It doesn't have to be very long, just enough to go through and grab that. That's going to be enough friction there to hold this in place. And there you have it. A flexible custom hose on a 4-inch drain pipe fitting. And then to install it, all we do is put it back on our fittings. And guys, let me tell you what, there's no need in gluing this stuff. I pretty much pull it all the way apart when I'm trying to take it apart. So these fit on here very snugly. It's a vacuum. It wants to pull it all together anyways. So there you have it. So I've got a pile of sawdust here. I'll move the camera and we will see all of this in action. Well, as you can see there, the cyclone was getting a little bit overwhelmed and some of the dust and shavings made it back into the bag. I think this bucket has not been sealed, so I think what's happening is there's air getting inside the bucket and wanting to go back to the suction, and it's forcing the dust back up into the bag. So I will report back in a future video of how this is performing once I get it sealed up. I do want to go in a future video and do an analysis, cost analysis of the entire system, and then go over some of the features that I've added and some of the things I want to add in the future. Well, I appreciate you joining me on this episode of building this collection bucket for my desk collection system. It was something a little bit different. I wanted to try these segmented parts to form this bucket. Just so you know, it's 16-inch diameter and it's 32 inches tall. So that's twice as big height-wise as the bucket that I had on this system before. Well, if you're new here, I would encourage you to check out some of my other videos and also please consider subscribing. But as always, please like, comment, and subscribe if you're not subscribed. We'll see you in the next one.